live a few minutes early, like is usually the case on Tuesdays when I'm out on the quest for organic produce here in the parking lot of Sprouts in beautiful Sacramento, California. Anyway, here I am. And today I'm going to read something I've read for you before, or at least part of it, concerning the nature of Goetic evocation and spirit evocation, Solomonic magic, and all of that. And because I have to keep repeating this year after year, I've been quoted and correctly quoted as saying that it's all in your head, you just have no idea how big your head is. And many people are quick to jump on that and think that means that I'm saying that all magic is psychological, and that there is no objective reality to spirits and things like that. And they try to put me in the camp of, well, Lon says it's all subjective and it's all in your head and psychological. Bullshit. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is there is no outside of yourself. That everything, in a sense, is subjective, even objective things. And so if you're thinking that, I'm thinking that, well, heaven and hell is all within yourself. No, there's plenty of heaven and hell outside of yourself, but there is no outside of yourself. If you're perceiving it, you're putting it in yourself, and that's where you're having to deal with it. No matter how objective it may be, the objectiveness is being reflected on and a reflection of what's inside. And ultimately, there is no inside or outside when one has, I guess, is vibrating at the level where duality loses its old meaning. So, a good example of that, if I can find what I packed before I got in the car this morning, kind of a good example of me summarizing this general field theory comes from a question, and I'm reading from a book that I often read from, Ask Babalon. And if you don't have Ask Babalon, you're not alone. Lots of people don't have it. But it's as easy as going to your computer and getting it from Amazon. Anyway, the question was, and I'm going to read the question too, because it's a very, very good question. And then I'll read at least part of my answer. I'm currently studying with much interest the book you and Dr. Hyatt wrote, Aleister Crowley's Illustrated Goetia. As a matter of fact, that was one of the most fun books that Alan and I wrote together, and along with our dear friend, our dear departed friend, David Wilson, who was quite a Goetic magician himself, and who had indeed, there's very few people I can say this about, he had indeed evoked all 72 demons, and with his artist's eye, did a very colorful, almost cartoonish versions of each of the Goetic spirits. So that's all in Aleister Crowley's Illustrated Goetia. But I digress to plug another book. So I'm busy plugging this one. I have several very fundamental questions that I hope you will find the time to answer. You refer repeatedly to the sigil or seal of the spirit being charged. What exactly charges this object? Is it the ceremony? Yes. How can I be sure the seal has been charged? Is the charge permanent? Does it ever wear off? These are great questions. What do I do if I want to change the instructions that I give the spirit? What happens if I lose or misplace the charged seal? Can I store the spirit seal in a brass bottle? If not, what exactly is the brass bottle for? Most importantly, how do I share my good fortune and spiritual success with the spirit? Isn't that a bit like making a deal with the spirit, which is something I believe you advise strongly against, and I do. Name withheld. Dear Name Withheld, you ask very good questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. Let me begin by assuring you that the best source of answers to these questions, and indeed any questions of a magical or spiritual nature, lies within yourself. Magic is an art, and magicians are artists. Picasso and Monet could agree or disagree about the advantages of oil paints versus watercolors, or the virtues of different canvases, but one should not expect them to even attempt to understand each other's perception of truth. I will answer the questions you raise, but you must remember that the answers are true only to the degree that they temporarily represent my understanding of the art of Goetic evocation. It's entirely up to you as a magician-artist to use, amend, or discard any of this information as your magical career evolves. Yes, the ceremony of evocation activates or charges the seal which has been placed in the triangle. The energy which executes this activation is the magician's concentrated will, which has been sharpened and focused by all the physical and mental preparations of the evocation. The spirit appears, and I've got that in quotes, the spirit appears on the seal, and that, quote, vision serves to charge the seal by indelibly imprinting on the magician's subconscious mind that image. Want me to say that again? The spirit appears upon the seal, and that vision serves to charge the seal by indelibly imprinting on the magician's subconscious mind that image. Years from now, you may forget that you ever performed that particular evocation, but your subconscious mind will not forget. And from at least one point of view, the subconscious is the natural abode of the spirits of the. So yes, in one respect, the ceremony activates the seal permanently. To deactivate it, you'll have to update your subconscious mind. Can I get a bless me? It rained last night, and yesterday, and all sorts of weird pollen and stuff. Constance and I are both sneezing today. Thank God I've got some tissue here. They used to say bless you afterwards because they used to think it's out when you sneeze. So thank you, everyone. But I digress. So yes, in one respect, the ceremony activates the seal permanently. To deactivate, you'll have to update your subconscious mind with the experience of another evocation and another vision. This needs to be done ceremonially with the same care and preparation you expended in the original evocation. Perhaps you're beginning to see that evocation is a formal, conscious dialogue and relationship between your conscious and subconscious mind, which are in themselves reflections of everything else out there. So don't subjective, objective me. Okay. The reason you do not wish to lose or forget where you put an activated seal is because you do not wish to lose the lines of communication you so painstakingly established between these two worlds. A Goetic spirit, once evoked, is an awakened giant, ready to serve you. You do not want to forget there is an awakened giant in the cellar. The reason you take great care to store the seal in a special container is so that you'll consciously reinforce the relationship. Each time your eyes fall upon the container, you're reminded of the evocation, reminded of the spirit, and how that little devil is pledged to your service and well-being. This serves to recharge both you and the spirit. Each time you see or think about the special box containing the spirit's seal, you should feel the same warmth of satisfaction a dog's master feels when he's able to feed his faithful pet a special treat. Sealing up the spirit seal in a brass bottle is a form of punishment, and this should only be resorted to after numerous attempts to form an amicable relations have failed. Forgive me, I'll digress for a second while I wipe my nose. Once I had an obstinate and very uncooperative spirit that I called up to do a special thing for me, and the thing was I was owed a check by a large corporation that I had worked for, that I had done absolutely everything in my power to get this check and to get it on time as was contracted, and I had all of my little ducks in a row on how I actually deserved to get what I was asking for. There was no doubt in my mind about my motive for this thing. But it just was not happening. And it was literally up to the many bureaucratic mechanisms within this large corporation in order for it to manifest. And again and again and again, the Spirit's instructions failed, and I kept getting it postponed and postponed. Not only that, finally, after a very severe re-evocation, The almost immediate reaction was I was informed I was never going to get the check. That was not only a failure on the Spirit's part to do what it had agreed to do quite pleasantly several times, but it affected to do just the opposite of what I asked the Spirit to do. It was a big no-no. Okay. So I set up a triangle on top of the little television set in our bedroom, a little cardboard triangle. And above the cardboard triangle, stuck in the chain that sort of held up the assembly of the rabbit ear antenna for the television set, I placed multiple sticks of incense. And I'll tell you why I did that in just a moment. But all of the incense heads leaned over the very center of the triangle. But inside the triangle, I set up my incense burner, a censer. And inside the censer, after I took a knife and cut off the heads of 5 or 6 matchbooks. So there was like at least 100 match heads, little red match heads that formed a nest inside my incense burner. And on top of that nest of match heads, I placed a cake of self-igniting charcoal. So you're getting the picture that should a spark hit one of those match heads, the match heads would ignite and burn long enough to set the charcoal on fire. Okay, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Then, on top of that charcoal, I had a little brass bottle about that tall. And it had a lid. I don't even know where I got it. I think I got it at a thrift store. This might come in handy to torture a demon someday. And anyway, it had a round lid or opening, a mouth to this thing. And I took the demon's sigil and I wrapped it up, I rolled it up in a roll, and I stuck it in that brass bottle. And that brass bottle was on the charcoal, and the charcoal was on the match heads. And then I took a Perrier water bottle cap and a roll of solder that I had in the junk drawer. And I melted the solder into the Perrier cap lid and let it harden. So in other words, I was making a lead disc. And then when I finally got the lead disc out of the Perrier cap, I scratched the sign of the lead seal that seals the brass bottle in the key of Solomon's key that seals the spirits forever in the brass bottle. And I just set that lead seal over the top, over the mouth of the brass bottle with the demon's sigil in the inside, and the brass bottle on the charcoal, and the charcoal on the match heads. And above this whole thing were sticks of incense hovering right over. And one at a time, I told the Spirit, before I put it in. I will wait until that check comes in. And until that check comes in, I'm going to keep those incense sticks. I'm going to keep at least one of those incense burning 24 hours a day until it comes through. And if a breeze happens to hit that incense stick, and if a little coal just happens to have enough red little coal on it as it drips down, as the ashes fall down on this assembly, then you're toast. And for 24 hours a day, it was almost, well, it was over 2 days, and I would get up about every 40 minutes or however long it took for an incense stick to burn down. I kept those incense sticks burning. And the check came in. Now that is an example of a grown man with too much time on his hands. But anyway, where was I? I digress. Sealing up the spirit seal in a brass bottle is a form of punishment and should only be resorted to after numerous attempts to form amicable relations have failed. It is not the same as destroying the spirit's seal, which is the last option, after which I advise you never to attempt to evoke that particular spirit again, but is intended to demonstrate to the spirit that if it is not willing to help you, that you are quite willing to see that it doesn't hurt you while you decide its fate. Pure and simple, it is an intimidation device before resulting to sealing it in a brass bottle. However, you can apply a bit of torture by putting its seal in a metal box in the triangle. Also in the triangle should be a bowl of flaming liquid or hot coals. The metal box should have a chain attached to it so that at the proper moment you can, from the safety of the circle, pick up the chain of the box with the point of your sword and suspend it over the fire. I have to add, in my ceremony, I kept the silk cord that I use as my magical circle when I evoke. I kept it tight around me during that 3-day period, with the demon in the triangle, me in the circle, and the sword of Damocles in the form of dripping coals from incense hovering over the top. Okay, how do I share my good fortune and spiritual success with the spirit? That is an extremely good question, and one that can only be answered by you. I'm reminded of the old American cowboy movies, where the hero rescues the girl and captures the bank robbers, but only after he's been pulled out of a deadly pool of quicksand by his faithful horse. In the really old movies, the cowboy doesn't kiss the girl at the end of the film. He kisses his horse. If you can endure yet another one of my old movie analogies, let's look at it this way. You are the captain of a pirate ship, and the ship is the of a pirate ship, and the spirit is the unruly sailor you've trained or whipped into shape to be a worthy crew member. Once it is tamed, trained, and working for your team, you sail together to exotic ports and both become enriched by the adventures and enterprises you lead. Ideally, you continue to do great things and continue to grow in knowledge and wisdom, and if you're truly wise, you keep refining the character, skills, and duties of your crew and the importance and holiness of your enterprise. Finally, when you're truly successful and save the empire, you and your entire crew are presented to the Queen and get knighted. I'm being only half silly here. Every case is different and unique. And as you gain enlightenment, you keep applying that enlightenment to the character and duties of the spirits you've taken responsibility for. You give, recognizing a job well done is a private and entirely internalized affair. But you give credit where credit is due. Oribos, the spirit I wrote about in my life with the spirits, and I have come a long way together. Indeed, we're part of each other. Just as I feel that I've evolved a little bit in the last 30 years, so too is my spirit friend, and it's a holy relationship. Relative to the Goetic spirit, the magician is the holy guardian angel. And just as there are people in the world who are so base and ignorant that they'll end this incarnation without ever having a spiritual thought, no matter how hard their holy guardian angel may try to contact them, so too in your magical universe, it's likely there are Goetic spirits who may not be ready to be calmed down enough to have a relationship with you. You might never be able to work effectively with these particular spirits. For those with whom you can form a working relationship, only you will know how to share your good fortune and spiritual success. I wish you the best of luck in your magical career. Sincerely, Babalon. Okay, I probably went over a little bit today, but that's it for today. Continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.